Hello and welcome to Pompey Talk in partnership with Jan Leap. My name is Mark McMahon, and joining me today in the studio to preview tomorrow's game against Bristol Rovers is Jordan Cross and Steve Wilson. Before we get their thoughts though, let's have a look at what Paul Cook said at yesterday's press conference.
What does Aaron McCarey bring to your football club as well as being a fit goalkeeper?
I think it's we have a lot of faith in our goalkeepers at the club. Unfortunately for us, they're all injured. So we have to go out there as quickly as we can, act as quickly as we can. We have a number of lists like every club will have on, the what if procedure. Certainly what if we have a keeper injured and, we have to go into the market quick. Aaron would have been one of the targets that we have, and we're very grateful for Wolves for allowing him to come down and play some games for us.
More positive news on Gary Roberts and a decision to make ahead of the weekend?
We'll just wait and see. We'll wait and see. Gary always wants to play. Gary can annoy you at times because he wants to play every week. And he's one of them lads that would play a little bit injured and a bit of pain. So he's trained this morning. We'll watch again tomorrow, see how the injury is before the weekend, and make a decision probably based on the fact that the 3 games coming up in a week. So we'll wait and see.
A bit of a waiting game with Brian Murphy, but for Paul Jones, who comes into your side after impressing, gets his opportunity and then suffers this injury. Did you say about 3 months could be helpful?
That's what they're saying to me, but Paul's been a credit to himself. He's lost his place. He's got his head down. He's worked hard. He's come back into the team, and obviously with his performance against Oxford, I think it's quite fair to say he would have stayed in the team if Murph was fit. Just before half time, he's made a couple of saves there that have probably earned us a point and kept our unbeaten record intact. So it's always a disappointment in football, but I think the pleasing thing for Jonesy is that he's actually played well in the team to show everybody what a good goalkeeper he is pre-getting injured. So post being injured, I'm sure he'll come back into the team.
And Connor Chaplin's shins, was it just something? Was there ever a worry? What was it? Has he been able to train and take full part this week?
Yeah, Connor's done okay. I think with signing the new contract at the beginning of this week, I think for a young 18-year-old lad, it's probably a lot on your mind even at times, and Connor's such a nice kid as well, so probably all in all it would have been quite a big weekend for Connor. The emotions of the new deal and signing a contract at a club that he loves, and being back in the first team. So probably it was a little bit of everything. He was complaining about his shins, and once lads start complaining on the pitch, it's pointless letting them play on through it. So he thought it was best that Connor come off, but he doesn't really seem to have had any reaction to it. It's just up for us to manage him properly now.
Still unbeaten. Reading in the Portsmouth News, I think equal the best club run in about 15 years. If you get a positive result at Bristol Rovers at the weekend, is it something that you are continuing to look at, or on the other side, are you aware it's something that can become a bigger thing? You're looking to stay unbeaten, and that can affect performance.
Just look to the next game. It's great for the players, the club, for everyone, because as these unbeaten records come to an end, they speak about less and less teams being unbeaten, and the challenge is for everyone to be the last unbeaten team. For me as manager, it's just to get points on the board. It's an irrelevant start. If we draw the next 5 games, we'll be one of the probably unbeaten teams in the country, but might be 12th in the league. So it's there for everyone to do with what they want. For me, I'd rather concentrate on our performances, how well we're playing or how well we're not playing. And try and get that right. If we stay unbeaten through that period, great. If we don't, that's life.
Okay, Jordy, we just heard Paul Cook's thoughts there ahead of tomorrow's game at the Memorial Ground. He mentioned Aaron McCarey, which is one of the major talking points at Pompey in the build-up to this game, the goalkeeping situation. How do you think McCarey's going to come into the side and play tomorrow?
Well, he's coming. He comes straight in, obviously, because there's only Alex Bass around, isn't there? So, but he's got first team experience. It's the Irish connection again, isn't it? The market that Paul Cook.
We know someone who will like that, won't we?
Yeah. do you know much about Aaron McCarey? Maybe I should be asking you.
I have to admit, I've never heard of him before.
Okay, but he's got first team experience at Wolves, and obviously, he's a young lad, 23, and a hard paper round, didn't he? But yeah, it's going. The way that Paul Cook referred to it, they got a number of targets. They know who's available. There's almost like a database of availability with keepers. They came out and Wolves were kind enough to let them know that he was available and can come and play some games. So a quick move, and the concern was, with 3 games a week, you need to get someone in the door really, and get him in, and they've reacted quickly. And with Murphy being a couple of weeks, and the other lads are longer, aren't they? Looking into 2 to 3 months. So it was absolutely imperative that happened and got someone in. So let's see how he goes and proves himself tomorrow.
Steve, how difficult is it for a goalkeeper to come in with fresh teammates ahead of him? Like, it must be very difficult.
Well, it's an interesting line from Aaron McCarey. I spoke to him yesterday, who suggested that when he went on loan to Walsall in his first Football League loan spell, he came in on the morning of the game and hadn't actually trained with any of his teammates, and that went pretty well. So it's slightly different for a goalkeeper, I think, because so many of the principles are exactly the same, regardless of what defence you're playing behind. It's not like you have to learn exactly the intricacies of teammates. If you're a central midfielder, you need to know who sits and who goes and that kind of thing. But as a goalkeeper, you're telling defence to push up, you're shouting when the keeper's coming to collect a cross and that kind of thing. It's relatively straightforward. Well,
is it tougher then for the defence in front of him to see what his game is about rather than the goalkeeper?
Well, I think they would usually take their lead from him, wouldn't they? That would be
organisation from set piece. You want a vocal presence, don't you? I know all keepers are different. I think the more important factor, and it's been something that Brian Murphy's had to adjust to, is philosophy. With kicking. It's time to kick. It's time to play it short. Obviously, Paul Cook's pretty keen to build from the back, use your full backs and get the ball out. So if you need to do that, you need to be reacting quickly, because as we know, teams like to press more and more nowadays and get up on your full back. So that needs to be the sort of get the moves off and ball out, but running sharply from when you get it in your hands.
The only other issue you probably think is what foot is he? If he's right-footed, if you're giving him a back pass, you try and give it to his right foot, don't you? But that's a 5-second conversation.
Yeah. It's a simple one, isn't it? Just make sure you don't.
Make sure you give it right
put it outside of the goal, basically.
Well, we know he's signed on an emergency loan for a month. What's the status then of the rest of the goalkeepers? Then will he play for that entire month? Is Jones going to be out for then? Is Murphy?
Well, Jones is out for 3 months. The initial prognosis is a posterior cruciate ligament, so it's not the most serious one. The anterior cruciate ligament is the one that usually keeps you out for the best part of the season. There's a medial ligament, which is usually around about the sort of 6 to 8 weeks kind of mark, sometimes longer. But this one is supposedly around the 3 month period.
Not if you listen to Paul Jones though.
No,
he believes he'll be back in 6 weeks. I think that was ambitious.
Of course, these injuries, you can't ever say it's definitely that, and it's going to be definitely that length of time. Players heal at different speeds. Sometimes injuries are more serious than others, so we'll have to wait and see on that. But it's at least a couple of months, I think, that he'll be out. Murphy is penciled in potentially for the Cambridge game, which I believe is around about October the 10th.
That's
I
right,
think.
Yeah.
So there's a hope that he could be back in time for that. Poke, I think, is probably a similar time frame to Paul Jones. He showed me his collarbone had popped out. It was a lump. It still hasn't gone back in yet.
Beautiful.
So you're not going to be seeing him for any in any short period of time. And the only other one worth mentioning, I think, is Daryl Flehaven. Is unlucky not to get an opportunity, but I think circumstances played against him, didn't they?
We were talking about that on social media this week, weren't we? And it was a debate. It's a real shame. I think he wouldn't have let anyone down. I mean, he's been around it. He had a few chats with Flav. Championship clubs were interested in him as a number 2, admittedly, but he's been there and he wouldn't have come in and let anyone down. And of course, you've got the point and see that he's never played for the club, and he's Aaron Flehaven's brother, who we all know passed away. A few years
I think
ago.
everybody on the desk wanted Flehaven to at least
Absolutely,
be given that chance.
I certainly did. But the difficulty was that had he signed on a short-term contract for a month, he then couldn't play for another club up until the January transfer window, and he's got to think of himself and his family and his career. That worked in Pompey's
favour a few years ago when Michael Appleton signed everyone, didn't he, on the emergency loans, and then they tied him to the club to January. But obviously it's worked against him. And you have to understand Flav needs to think about his own security as well, and to rule himself out. When
another club could come in and want him until January or the end of the season, and all of a sudden he's tied.
It's not big money at this level, is it? You've got to think about your security and paying the bills.
Well, looking ahead to the game tomorrow, obviously one Irishman comes in, an Irishman's going to come out in the form of Michael Doyle. Steve, just how important has he been to Pompey, and how big of a miss will he be tomorrow?
I think he will be a miss. Yeah, he gives them a bit of grit and determination and a bit of fire and steel in that. I've just used every cliche there is, haven't I?
Cliche bingo, ding, ding.
Just about covered the bases, but he's that sort of chucking a firebrand.
Tenacious.
That sort of midfielder who's hard to replace. You haven't got a like-for-like replacement, I don't think, in the squad at the moment. So he is going to be a miss, but it will give the midfield a slightly different balance. Paul Cook has mentioned it's going to be 2 from 3. So. It's Nigel Attangana, Danny Hollins and Adam Barton.
You could do a dog of war in there, couldn't you, Steve?
A dog of war? I forgot that one. What's wrong with me?
Yes, you go for it then.
I mean, credit to Adam Barton, the way he came in last weekend. He was crucial in the second half at Oxford, the way he got the ball ticking over. That was really important to Pompey getting a foothold in the game, and he really served notice to Pompey fans about what he can offer. Nigel Attangana was off the pace, but he has been...
Was that due to illness, or was he just off the pace?
If you're on the pitch and you're out there and you're fit and you declare yourself fit, don't blame the illness. So not good enough. I know you kind of people have given him some leeway, but no, he was a 4 out of 10 for me. He was poor. And rightly withdrawn at the break, made a lot of mistakes, but we won't harp on that because he's been excellent this season. He has came in and you have to give him some understanding. We're having a chat with Liam Richardson where this lad was, not too long ago. But you have to get the balance right. And on a dog of war note, on a serious note, you need to, Doyle is that feisty player that will put his foot in, and every team needs that right kind of balance, especially with two holding midfielders. If you were to go Barton, Attangana, are you a bit lightweight there? I mean, and Bristol Rovers with their two in the middle, they play 4-4-2. You've got to kind of consider that. So I would maybe even lean to just getting Dunn back into the equation with Barton as the two holders. And if you go on performances, Attangana didn't perform the last one. I'd probably take him out.
Yeah, do you agree, Steve?
Dunn's not happening. He won't.
Nothing.
The manager suggested yesterday that he hasn't played enough games to be considered.
Adam Barton came in straight away against Oxford last week.
That would be the counter argument, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Which you'd think he looks as ready to play as Barton.
He played right back in the game against Eastleigh this week.
He looked fine. He looked fit. He looked like
But there's nothing there. But Paul Kagay said there's nothing there. But you kind of think, well,
he obviously doesn't rate him as highly as he does other players. That's the bottom line of it. So, right. But in my own personal view, I think there are certain clubs or certain teams you might be able to get away with not having one of those real enforcers type in the midfield. That's another one, isn't it? I didn't use that earlier. And I've been impressed by Barton so far. I like the way he's a sort of languid kind of.
He's got that rare gift of looking at. He's got time on the ball.
He can spray it around and think. I like those sorts of players. So I'd go with Barton in there, and I think I might give Nigel a breather and stick Danny Hollins in there.
Is that fair then, having a completely new holding midfield then, a new partnership when we've had Doyle and Attangana so far this season? Is that going to break up?
I think they're all interchangeable, don't you? I think they're pretty much. I don't think it takes too much.
I mean,
it would rip too much.
You will get from Hollins what you will get from Dunn to a great extent, won't you? So I can sort of see the sense in having that. But you need someone who's going to put their foot in, especially when you go away from home.
Oh, okay. We'll talk about further up the field. Gary Roberts' situation, is he likely to make a return tomorrow, Jordy?
Oh well, Steve's at the press
Touch and go is the official line. So Roberts clearly wants to play, and Paul Cook was suggesting that he was being pestered by Roberts to be back in the equation. They've got to be a little bit careful with him. If he's done an ankle, sometimes you think you're okay, and you might just want to give it another week to make sure you're absolutely right. But Roberts is the type of guy who wants to play every game, isn't he? So if he's fit, throw him in, or alternatively keep him on the bench, and he's a useful guy to have on up your sleeve, isn't he?
Okay, well, before we wrap up here, guys, obviously we agree that Adam Barton should maybe Adam McGurk should maybe start up front on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to pick my 11, I'd probably go with the same back four as what we've gone with. Obviously the keeper comes in, McCarey, he starts. Well, I've said Dunn, so I'll stick with it, but I can see the sense in going with Hollins and in midfield with there. But Barton certainly comes in for me after an impression in the second half. Then you're free. If Gary Roberts doesn't make it, picks itself in behind McGurk for me, who really caught my eye and impressed so far and cemented that sort of positive start up front with that goal last week.
Steve, your thoughts on a starting 11?
I know I'm biased and I keep banging on about it, but I'd have Tubbs in the side in some capacity.
Have you seen McGurk play yet up front?
Yeah. And he does give you something. I think Tubbs is just always likely to get you a goal. I was team Tubbs with you, Steve, but after seeing the last two games. But I completely understand that you have to change the system, I think, to get Tubbs in the side. And this system is working for the majority of the team at the moment.
So same back four.
Yeah, same back four. But I'd go with Barton and Hollins as the central two.
And then you go.
Then Evans. I'd go with Roberts if
Roberts is near, then I would lean towards him. Who would you take out of that three?
I think Connor.
Would you take out Connor Chapman? Would you?
I think I would. Yeah, just you don't want to load too much on him at the moment. I think the Cook alluded to the fact that there was quite a lot of expectation on him after the big week he's had with signing his contract.
On reflection, I think I would go with...
Can't change your mind now, Jordy. You've already said it.
Yes, I can.
I've convinced him.
Yeah. Evans, Roberts and Bennett, and then you've got Chaplin as an impact, haven't you?
Absolutely, yeah. And he's shown he can do that. Some players don't adjust to coming off the bench that well, but Chaplin has shown that he can.
Right, okay. We'll quickly just talk about the opposition. Jordy, they haven't had the best of form at home.
Really
I think they've lost 3 out of 4 games at home, so Pompey should be looking at this here.
Yeah, absolute opportunity. But if you speak to the guys down at Bristol Rovers, they don't feel the performances. The results have reflected the performances.
Mm-hmm.
They had that 3 defeats on the bounce, but they stopped that rot with a good point last weekend against Plymouth. Their players, they've not had a massive budget. The budget's about a third of Pompey's, which most teams are going to be less this season. But the manager, they've started okay, I think, in their mind. That'll probably be put into context by how they do tomorrow. But they play 4-4-2. They've got players like Sinclair, who's done well from this season. Billy Bowden's come in and not played a great deal of games, but Jermaine Easter probably be the one to look out for up top, who did well a number of years ago in the FA Cup. I think it was in 2008 against Pompey. Yeah, he's still knocking around, so he'll be their main threat.
Okay, Steve, just a quick prediction then. Pompey to maintain their unbeaten record.
By the way, I've got the last 2 right.
I think, have you?
Yeah, 3-1, and I sort of said 1-1 or 2-2, but I'm claiming the 1-1 now.
I'm going to go with a 2-0 solid Pompey away win, and hopefully it's a better. My last trip to the Memorial Stadium was one of Richie Barker's first games in charge.
That's right. Yeah. I was there with you, Steve.
What a miserable game that was! Just before Christmas, wasn't it?
That's right.
It was horrible.
A lovely trip.
I'm sure it's going to be better than that. So I think I'm predicting Pompey 2-0 win.
Jordy, your prediction?
I've got to back it this time, haven't I? I'll go for a 2-1 win.
2-1. Okay, so hopefully 5 o'clock tomorrow we'll all be celebrating a Pompey victory. My name's been Mark McMahon. You've been watching Pompey Talk in partnership with Jan Leap. We'll see you again soon. Goodbye.